Rumba. You asking me what is wrong with Trinidad? You can't understand why things go on so bad. You find we so rich in human resources, and yet the country going to pieces. Well, let me tell you, my friend, where we went wrong. After Eric Williams' old car breakdown, we called in an AR. We ordered the next car and installed a new driver. With 33 passengers from the party, we gave him a maxi taxi, fitted with McQueen's take computer, air conditioned 8-cylinder. With brush new fittings, this maxi car ride. Then it started to swerve and nosedive. It took a year for passengers to realize. They say, the new driver cannot drive. Rumba. You're questioning me so much about the driver. You want proof to show he can maneuver. Well, boy, the first month he get this driving job, you know the man comes down for you with Bob. And just last week a pedestrian named Chalky tell the driver to drive properly. Well, the driver, you know, plus a lady in the front row, try to bump down Chalky just so. Well, some school children by the road run like hell. They lose their lunch and books as well. He driving on the fast lane and maxi way, and tells Mr. pull us straight to the drain. He slammed the brakes on them all public servants. Some get injured, no insurance. Look, Ellis Clark had to jump and run to stay alive. He said, the new driver cannot drive. Alive. Rumba. Well, of the 33 chosen passenger, come free Ramnath Pandey and Sudama, they wouldn't let the poor driver drive in peace. They distracting him and wouldn't see. While he driving, they hitting him some big cloud. So he stopped the maxi and put them out and to settle their fate. They went to drink a straight by a club called. Meanwhile, the driver had people disappearing, you see. Passengers started to run, you see. Well, he's getting to the credit union building. The members and them sent for Pantin. Pantin tell him to get his car out of there before he say a march on his rear. Cause since last year, Pantin, one little brother Clive, look Clive, the new driver cannot drive. Yeah. He lost his way by the IMF station and asking a Yankee for direction. And like a vagrant, he all who passed to buy back some of his oil and gas. And Jack warned him that his new factory corroded and not to pass on the IMF road. But he ain't listening. He dropped asleep driving, and IMF thieves rape him. Meanwhile, the car going about skidding for so. Passengers don't know what to do also. So they hop up and take a next taxi and claim they is a refugee. The driver call our next person red for me and ask him to raise the price for me. So Carl staying far from the driver just to survive. Carl no, the new driver cannot drive. God bless.
Yay. Oh, the Americans give them a big maxi taxi in 2020 with 33 passengers. And the maxi taxi swerving all over the place. It knocked down the teachers. It knocked down the public servants. It knocked down the people at Moko. It knocked down the people at Linden. It knocked down people all over the place because the driver cannot drive. The driver cannot drive. It knocked down all the GPL posts, boards going on the GPL line and causing blackout. The driver cannot drive. The driver cannot drive. The driver picking up people along the road. It pick up gold smugglers. The driver cannot drive. The driver picking up all kind of dirty people along the road. The driver cannot drive. Corruption. The driver is corrupt. The driver is corrupt. Good evening to you, my lovely people. It's a Friday night, and there is no rest. Friday night, I know we want to go and take a little drink and eat some sauce and black pudding and fish cake and so on, and we can't even go and do a thing in peace because corruption is rife in our country. We are making sport. We are making sport. These people get me busy today. 2-3 program I had to do. People calling, Dr. Hines, what is going on in your country? You get a permanent secretary involved in corruption. The Americans get into all over the place. The driver cannot drive. The driver cannot drive. Good evening to you, wherever you're joining us from. Please share the link. Our country's in crisis. Our country's in crisis. Our country is crashing. We can't wait. We can't wait. We can't wait. The ship is not just sinking. The ship has sunk already. We are in serious trouble in our country. If we didn't realize it all the time, we realize it now. We are hearing that the Americans stopped the lady at Miami last year and asked her about the Mohammeds. They're now telling us so. These people are high-class scams. And I want us to understand what we are facing. We have our little fights, you know. We have our fights. We have our fights. Yesterday was Walter Rodney anniversary. We in the WPA don't forget that at all. That the PNC government assassinate Walter Rodney. But by God, this government is assassinating everything in sight. I know we fighting with party elections. Abri versus Amanza and Amanza versus Risedale and Risedale versus Abri. But oh Jesus Christ, why you all doing that? They're fetching away the goal with the help of the government. They're making us a laughing stock all over the world while we are fighting to be leaders. I ain't say we mustn't fight to be leader. You have to have a leader. Thing irregular. Thing no regular. Thing no regular. My elder said as early as 1953, this confounded nonsense must stop. And the confounded nonsense he was talking about is still with us today. Thing is terrible. And all those of you who hiding and diving and don't want to call a spade, you all are doing us a disservice. Good evening. Please share the link. We're ready. Dr. Vincent Adams is ready to roll with us here tonight. Dr. Adams, good evening, my brother.
Hey, good evening, Dr. Hines, and good evening to all of our wonderful listeners out there who sacrifice their Friday nights to come listen to us here, to indulge.
My brother, what is going on in our country? Now, the news that broke 2 days ago was expected. This thing goes back about 3-4 years. The Americans signaled 3-4 years ago that something is happening. This government that we have did nothing. All the signs were there. They took us down the drain. They have no shame. Here we have, look, it's not two citizens, private citizens, engage in this corruption, but one of them is an elected member of local government, under the ruling party. And then they were aided and abetted by an officer of the government and the state, who herself is a member of the Central Committee of the ruling party. This thing cannot be divorced from the state. The state has been criminalized under the PPP. Dr. Adams, you have had the opportunity of working all over the world. Are we
Yep.
serious? Guyana is in this high class criminal activity? Talk to me.
Well, like we've been seeing the way that they've been doing business. You remember they went to the UN, they take guys and pass the UN people. They believe that they're so power drunk about the oil, Dr. Hines, that they believe that they could get away with everything. They believe that this year is everything is under their control. Everybody wants a piece of Guyana, and they're calling the shots. That's just to if they're in Parliament. Um, but I think this here it now realize that countries such as the U.S. and making joke with them now. I would like to start first. Maybe this new ambassador deserves some credit because this thing has been going on for years under the previous ambassador, and there's always been that question with some relationships. So yeah, it may just be a coincidence that this new ambassador has arrived in the country and this thing is now coming to light. However, so this new ambassador may deserve some credit in terms of bringing this thing to the surface. Now, they, what's so amazed, but it's not amazing because this is how this guy operates. Here's the vice president yesterday, Dr. Hines. Yesterday, which is exactly what I predicted. First of all, he started out. I don't know if you looked at this press conference. He started out. The guy, you could tell. You remember when the conversation about Sue and the Vice News lady. As soon as she brought up Sue's name, he started getting nervous and stuttering. The same thing happened yesterday. He got so nervous and he started telling the whoever it was operating the air conditioner to turn up the air conditioner. He was hot. So he went on. Do you know what this man did? Typical propagandist. If nothing else, I don't know what he studied in Russia, but for sure he learned quite a bit about how to propagandize. The man turned through the entire conversation to a 2016 or 2015 quote from Raphael Trotman. When Raphael Trotman said that they were smuggling over, I can't remember what it is, but just a tremendous amount of gold every single day. So now he's blaming the PNC folks that's it. So it's not here. This thing didn't start with us. This thing started since 2015. Now, this guy really believes that people are stupid. So as soon as the PNC changed, took over office in 2015, suddenly, we had some crooks who dropped from the skies and decided to be crookish in terms of stealing our gold. That's the impression. So that was where his conversation was focused. Then one of the reporters said, well, there was, and I can't remember the investigation that it had a name for it. What happened before the 2015? There was an investigation called something. He said, wait, I want to know more about it. And he intimidated the reporter that she stopped going down that path and started asking what happened during that 23 years. And the other thing, Dr. Hines, when he that's his modus operandi, he always goes and compare the 3 years that they're in office here, I mean the 4 years, to the 4 years, because it's really 4 years that the coalition was in office, because there was a complete year. 2020, there was no coalition governance there because there wasn't any budget or anything. So everything you ask and compare what they have done in 2024 versus what from 2020 to 2024 versus what the coalition did from 2015 to 2020. Well, what we've got to keep banging in people's head, out of the last 32 years, the coalition was only in office for basically 4 years. But now he compares the 4 years, which is a false comparison, because now they've got that 4 years of money. But they're not saying that they've got 23 plus 4, 27 years. What we ought to compare is what they did in 23 years compared to what the coalition did in 4 years. However, going back to the corrupting, it so happened, Dr. Hines, that that I was at this conference in Washington yesterday, the Caribbean Legislative Forum. It's an annual affair, and we had two congressfolk. You know, Congressman Jackson was there, and Congresswoman Plasek was also there. And by the way, let me say this: Congressman Jackson at that forum mentioned in his speech, great speech, mentioned his visit to Guyana, talked about his visit to Guyana, his visit to Mocha, and related it to the history of Black folks. And he also said that teachers should be paid a fair wage based on all the money. But however, the government had representative there, and you would not believe you would swear that they've started their campaign in that forum, which I thought was inappropriate. However, I got some information there from the World Justice Project, and one of the theme of this meeting last couple of days was the rule of law. And lo and behold, Guyana is ranked 76 out of 142 countries worldwide in terms of following the rule of law and corruption, which means that over 55% of the countries, or 50-something%, are above Guyana. So we are still in the bottom, basically in the bottom half when it comes to corruption. But the other thing, Dr. Hines, the other thing is that even a reporter asked him yesterday, well, it seems as if because the man said that he was so sad about May having to leave the party. You know, she got they suspended her, I guess, from her position in the party. However, let's let the people know that she's still getting paid. She's on leave, and she's still getting paid by the taxpayers. So a question was asked: how come you're so sad about her leaving the party? It sounds as if that's more important to you than her position in the government, which meant that he had a second chance to correct that, and he still stuck with her as a party member. So there's something there. I want some more names. I want to know how far the tentacles are going to go by the time this is all over. And I believe there are lots of nervous people, and I believe even nervous people, even including the vice president himself, because it's interesting. Since they start questioning people on their entrance in the United States ports, somebody brought it to my attention. The vice president, and I guess it's easy to check. The vice president had not set foot in the U.S. for quite a while since they started, questioning folks. So we want to see where the tentacles are going to go. But this here is a very serious matter. It's got everybody nervous. You can see it in the vice president press conference yesterday, and deservingly so. They ought to be nervous. And I guess let's wait for the next hammer or hammers to fall.
Dr. Adams, how big is this? Let our audience understand. How big is this?
It is massive. It is massive. I'm surprised that even the opposition has not.
But we're going to get to the opposition. But what I want you to do is explain for this audience how big this is. What is the impact? That amount of money, that amount of money that is being siphoned off from the Treasury. That's one, the impact on the economy. Secondly, that we are now part of an international criminal ring. What does that mean? And third, the state is directly involved. And you're hinting that Ms. Toussaint could not have been acting alone. No, she could not have been acting alone. No, I am not defending the young lady because she puts herself in the shit, right? But don't tell me that the permanent secretary on her own, without any direction from anybody, without any communication with anybody, she alone, deal with the Mohammeds. No, talk to us, my brother, about how big this is. Because I think what happens in a country like Guyana, or a small country, which is not a big, powerful country, when these things happen, we tend to see them through our small island lens, and we don't understand how big it is. I was on a program this morning in Antigua, and they hadn't heard the news. I was there to give a weekly roundup that I do on Guyana and the Caribbean. And I started off with that in Guyana. And when I was finished my 3 or 4 minutes monologue, the moderator said, Dr. Hines, while you were talking, I Googled this story. And the thing has filled 2 pages. And he started with Reuters and CNN. And he said, we're in the studio here figuring out what is happening to our Caribbean. The point I am making here is that this thing is big, and we in Guyana and the Caribbean tend not to understand the massiveness of some of these things. Talk to me.
Well, even yesterday, the same conference in Washington and Capitol Hill that I was talking about, almost all of the presenters, and these were highly, highly, people with high stature and status in various international organizations, and in Washington, connected. There were some government, U.S. government, high-ranking employee executives at that conference that gave presentations. And one of the things that came out from almost every presenter, because of Guyana's oil. Where does Guyana go? So goes the rest of the Caribbean into the future. So here is the country that people are now looking up towards as the leader within the Caribbean. And this is the reputation, rather than being a country that's going to lead the way in terms of credibility and honesty and integrity that people can follow. This is the image that we're projecting amongst not only our Caribbean neighbors now, because our name, we're going to be one of the highest producers of oil. So now we're dealing with the big boys. So that is going to become our reputation, and it started already. And this here is a big deal. So that's what we've inherited it. We're not inherited, sorry. That's what we have done to ourselves. And we should be let people understand how they in Guyana, but in the Caribbean we need to because yesterday again, the vice president want to brush this thing aside, and that's the way that he operates. This is a no, never mind. This was happening. This is his message. This was happening since 2015 under the coalition. And we have got to get out there, Dr. Hines, and I want to get to that because I'm hoping that the opposition is going to do their part to carry the message out there as to tell the people what is the truth that is happening, and even go as far as taking actions, political actions, to hold this administration to come, because it's not only embarrassing and putting us in a bad light, meaning the government alone, but every one of us, especially us who live in the diaspora. It's embarrassing when your friends and people of high standing have got to say, well, your country is corrupt, and everybody knows. I mean, I just told you about that corruption index, where we stand, and we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything to make it more favorable. When these things happen, it just gets worse.
It just gets worse. Defrauding the government, $50 million in taxes from smuggled gold, 50 million US dollars. You all do the calculation. 50 million US dollars has been and that is conservative. That is conservative, as we've been saying, that some 10,000 kilograms of gold was smuggled out of this country between 1919 and 2023. These people have their hands in construction, in all kinds of things. $648 million contract to build a fire station.
Yeah.
My brother, this thing is enormous.
Yeah.
And it's defrauding the people of Guyana, while with what I want us to stress here tonight, this is not just private individuals robbing the government. These are private individuals robbing the government with the government deeply involved in it.
Yeah.
That is what I think we ought to stress. And I want to say that lady could not have been acting on her own. I am theorizing here that she had to have been given instructions by superiors. And I'm saying that for every gold chain she get as a bribe, for every $1 million she get as a bribe, somebody getting 100 times that. And so the Americans said it's a smuggling ring. And we must want to get to the bottom of this. And that is why I'm stressing here tonight. This is not a small story. This is a big story. And I'm coming to you because you've introduced the thing of the opposition. And you and I cannot escape it. We are part of the opposition. You're an AFC member. I am a WPA member. All right? We are part of this opposition. Something like this, I am putting it to you, and I'm taking the liberty, my countryman Dudu, when the defense lawyer said, I'm putting it to you, Mr. Sanko, he said, you can't put nothing to me because you've not been there. So when I'm putting things to people, I've been very careful. But I'm putting it to you that something like this deserves a vote of no confidence in the government. I cannot see how we can have confidence in a government that is colluding with this level of corruption. Jack Dio can say whatever he wants to say. That is his business. I think as opposition, our business is to let the Guyanese people and the world know that we cannot have a government like this. This government cannot have the confidence of the Guyanese people because it's colluding to rob the Guyanese people.
Yeah.
Dr. Adams.
I absolutely agree with you. And that was, it even among the circle of my friends, there's discussion about that. And rather than right now, of course, the opposition, both of the opposition major parties are APNU and the AFC. They're focusing on the
PNC and the AFC. The PNC and the AFC. APNU. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
APNU. Let me tell the audience and remind you, my brother.
Yeah.
APNU was the WPA and the PNC. In fact, the name APNU was given by the WPA. Let me think. The AP, don't worry, all them other little thing. The APNU was the PNC and WPA. Robert Corbin, Lance Carberry, the late Oscar Clark that just buried a couple weeks ago, right? Basil Williams came to a couple of meetings. I was reminded that Valda came to a couple of meetings. But the architects on the PNC side, Robert Corbin, Lance Carberry, Oscar Clark. On the WPA side, Rupert Rupnarine, Clive Thomas, and Ogunse, Desmond Trotman, and myself, whenever I was in the country joining the team. They are the architects of the APNU. Once the WPA left the APNU dead. There's no APNU. I don't know that thing that masquerading there and all kind of things that they shack out Aubrey North. There is no APNU. APNU died when WPA left because the APNU was WPA and PNC. And once WPA and PNC buried their hatchet, it made it easier for the AFC to say, well, I can play with you all. I don't think the AFC was going to play with the PNC by itself, right? It was the PNC, WPA, and AFC is the coalition. All the other thing is nonsense. So I just want to put that in, right?
All right, no, I stand corrected, and you're closer to that part of it than I am. So I stand corrected. So the PNCR and the AFC, they're focusing on their elections by the end of the month. But you know, Dr. Hines, when you look at, you know, and I agree with you, by the way, but it's no confidence vote, a call for no confidence vote, because we even the no confidence vote that went against the opposition, the current opposition, I cannot even remember if there was any specific issue that triggered that no confidence vote. It was just they decided that, you know, they wanted to get rid of the government in power. But here is a specific something that is against the best interests of the country, that you can pinpoint and see that where it's leading, this is taking this country down, not only nationally, internationally, and economically. And so this year, if there's anything that has a justification, it is what has happened here. And I think that the opposition now needs to pay attention and move forward with a no confidence vote. I have no trepidation whatsoever about that.
You heard it here on Politics 101. I've gotten so many calls today from citizens, leaders who are banging their heads against the wall and saying, but we have to have a response to this. And, you know, one of the most dramatic responses we can have is for the opposition to move a vote of no confidence in the National Assembly. We cannot have confidence in a government that is colluding with forces to defraud the government of resources. This is not somebody said. This is not hearsay. This is not speculation. The Americans said they've been doing this investigation for 2.5 years. And you know those people just operate. They just do their thing, gather all the evidence, so when they come at you, they come good. So, of course, we still have to say alleged, but we know the Americans, when they come at you with something like this, they would have gathered all the information. This government stands not just accused, they have already been indicted, as far as I am concerned. And we cannot have confidence in this government to govern this country. We know of all the things that they've done, the way in which they give away our resources to their friends through contracts. And the contracting is also in this accusation. We know that.
Yep.
We know the way in which they've brutalized their citizens, especially the blackest among us, meaning African Guyanese. We know the corruption that they have encouraged in the police force, and I'm very clear what I'm saying here. I am not talking about a corrupt police force. I'm talking about a police force that is being encouraged to be corrupt by this government. I want to make that clear to the policemen and women who we can't get you all back. We can't get you all back. You all are not inherently corrupt. Because I know they said they want to say the police are black man corrupt. No, they are corrupting you all. They are corrupting you all. They're corrupting the police force. They're corrupting the public service. I am saying that lady could not have surrounded the Ministry of Home Affairs by herself and do this. I think there had to be a network in that ministry, and the minister will have to say, because it's his ministry. And you can't tell me the permanent secretary acting on her own. She's indicted, and the minister scot-free. The minister is in charge, he's the political manager of the ministry. And he has to say to us, not what he knows, because we know he knows. He has to say to us, did you have a role to play? And I am saying here that I cannot see how the minister can escape not knowing what's going on. When you look at the blackouts that we have been having, when you look at people telling me the board go up on a lantern post and board go on a line and what kind of nonsense are you telling me in 2024?
Here,
This
Dr.
government
Hines,
is
I'm an
unfit to govern.
engineer. Dr. Hines, I'm an engineer, but every day something comes up that these, especially the vice president, and they really believe that that Guyanese are a pack of asses to be peddling these types of nonsense about boards getting on and interfering. It's because they've spent all that money on this power. Even for the power alone, it should have been a no confidence vote against this government for a long time. And here's the other laughable thing that came out from the vice president press conference. Guess what this man wants the American government to do in the to pass over the information to the government, to pass over all the information that they've gathered, give it over to the Guyana government. You know, we're going to give it to you so that you can do your independent investigation. This man really takes, this government really takes up all of us for a pack of fools. That's what's going on here. It's the arrogance and the, you know, just disregarding or insulting people's intelligence.
Yes. No, I don't know the Mohammeds. I see some black people walking around with them on the place and say they're taking them for president. I don't know them. I don't get into the politics of individuals. They're individual citizens, and clearly they're into what I suspect a lot of business, so-called business people are into. My interest in this case is the role of the government and the
absolutely
state.
That's
the role
mine
of
too.
the government
That's
and the
mine
state.
too.
And that's where I'm going. My brother, I mean, our airport closed down because the light went out. I mean, Vincent, man, oh God, man. I mean, you running a little business, you just get standby generator. I mean,
that's basic.
Explain to me, man. How that thing could have happened? Then get standby generator at the airport. What? Tell us what's going on.
That should be basic. Even you know, look, you go at the hotel such as the Marriott, and I'm sure that the Pegasus and those places are. Everybody has a standby generator, especially at the airport, Dr. Hines. That should be the number one place in the whole country that should have standby power. So that when stuff goes, the airports will still, because that's where it's probably most dangerous. Because could you imagine, let's say a plane was coming in low on fuel, for example, Dr. Hines. Let's say because it had to be diverted, I guess, to Ogle, or, you know. Suppose the plane was low on fuel, or suppose it happened, and even though a lot of people start, well, okay, the probability of that occurring is very low. But you got to, when you design these systems, anything engineering, you've got to design it for those things that look highly improbable, because you're not designing into the probability of an occurrence. You're designing in accordance with the consequences. It's the consequences, it's not the probability of an occurrence. You take anything that is possible into consideration, and to mitigate against it, to make sure it doesn't happen. In this particular case, you must have adequate standby generators. And on top of that, you do exercises to make sure that your system is working and people are going to respond properly. Like, I mean, that's the kind of, it's just foreign to everybody. Look, and even let's look at the engineering. You remember, we just got through, and this is the kind of thing that we got to make sure that doesn't happen, because you see, Jagdio plays upon this, that the disaster or some big issue of today is going to be the news of, you know, by tomorrow is past. Look, we just had this major flooding in Linden that was caused by shoddy work. The local community and municipality, I think it's over a year or two, had identified the drainage system and asked her, you send it up to headquarters. asked for money to fix those drains. When they went and built the roads, the construction of the road did not have any drainage along the sides of the road. Those things are basic, Dr. Hines. So guess
Very
what?
basic.
So Linden is all flooded out,
Right.
and we again it's because we do not know what the hell we're doing. We spend taking the money, and it's part of the whole corruption thing. The only objective behind this money right now, Dr. Hines, is to make sure it goes into certain people's pockets. It doesn't matter whether they're capable of what they know what they're doing, as long as friends and families are made rich. Because what's going to happen? When those roads cannot last, those same people are going to come back to repair it.
Exactly.
And so the more repairs they've got to do to those roads, because the repairs are not worth anything, because the road is not properly constructed. So it's not going to last long. So it's continuous work over and over. You left here this week, you go another place next week, you come back here next week. That's what's going on here. So that's where the money, that's why we've got 58% of our national budget, 58% or $666 billion is infrastructure budget. That doesn't happen in any other part of the world. That's where the money is going to about 1% of the people. And out of that 1%, 90% of them belong to one set of people. So that's what all of this is about. That is and then of course the goal is about the same thing as corruption. So it's all about making their friends and families rich, and to hell with the rest of the poor Guyanese people.
But we have to get up and get the list of infractions are too much. Flooding in Linden, just in the last month, flooding in Linden. The light gone out at the airport. I flinch when I hear the American Airlines flight had to go all the way back to Puerto Rico, and I say, "Oh Jesus! If they didn't run out of fuel,
suppose they had fuel, Dr. Hines.
My mother!
Suppose they didn't have fuel to reach there.
All the way back to that place. Look, comrades, brothers and sisters, you all taking this thing too lightly. These are not just little major mistakes by a government. This government has struck us saying the thing the driver cannot drive. This government cannot govern. And I am saying publicly here that they ought to go for a vote of no confidence. I am not thinking about whether you win the vote of confidence and you lose the vote of confidence. We have to register our vote of no confidence in this government. I'll be calling Mr. Norton tonight. I'll be calling Mr. Ramjatan and let them know privately how I feel about this thing. They cannot sit on their rear and watch something like this happen and do nothing about it. Do nothing about it. No. This is too much. This is too much. And I want you all to support that our parliamentarians have to move. One, they have to move a vote of no confidence in this government. Second, they need to move a bill. They need to introduce a bill into parliament asking for the revoking of the name Negro, describing African people, and to replace it with African Guyanese. They got work to do. They cannot be sitting there on their asses. And I protect our elected officials. And the reason I protect them is because I know when you're in the opposition, you literally can do nothing. You literally can do nothing. But the one thing you can do is to dramatize. You ain't going to win because you don't have a majority unless you buy a couple. And as far as I'm concerned, if they buy somebody from you, you should try to buy somebody or somebody from them.
Yeah.
Fair exchange is no robbery. And I think the opposition should use this opportunity to introduce a vote of no confidence and try to buy somebody or two from the PPP. Let's fight it off. And I'm saying, Amanza, Risedale, Aubrey, I know you all want to lead your party bad. but you all can lead the best party. If you all do not find a way to get this government out of the way, and it's only one way we can remove governments now, it's through election. And so you all have to find a way to make it easier for us to remove these people via election. That is your task. I'm saying that you all mustn't fight Matty to be leader. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that is not the most important thing that is happening in our country at the moment. All right? I don't get into the AFC story, but I start praying since day before yesterday that Nigel Hughes accept the nomination, and I'm going to be calling Sherrod and say, Sherrod, I know you get plenty nomination, but please, Sherrod, step aside, let Nigel Hughes lead the AFC, because we need strong leaders of that type if we are going to move this government. This is time for us to be practical and get around all the BS, because we just BSing, all right? I'm not getting into the PNC story, but I'm still waiting to hear what policy differences are there between Roysdale, Amanza, and Aubrey. And I ain't hearing no policy. In fact, none of the three of them running on any policy. All I'm hearing is this body leadership style and this body not uniting the party and all that kind of story. I'm not hearing from Aubrey, from Amanza, from Roysdale, policy difference where you intend, when you become leader, to help us to win power in 2025, because that's what we have to do as a first step. My brother, Vincent Adams, talk to me about what I just said.
I don't think there's a whole lot for me to add in terms of what the opposition should be doing and the path that we should be moving along. If we with everything that is happening here, Dr. Hines, if the people, and when I say we, it's not that we somehow, it's not only about what we are doing, but if the people cannot see the light and see the things that are happening here today, or even before, when I say today, I mean in recent times since this administration came into being, how much more could they tolerate or stand? So we've got to rely upon the people to understand what is best for themselves and their families and Guyana. And as long as they think about that, I cannot see how they can go and continue to retain or want to retain this government in power. But outside of that, we have got to show also that we can govern, and we cannot set the example to people, to demonstrate that we can govern the way that we're, just focusing on fighting each other. We've got to shift, like you said, and let the people know when we get into office, this is what we're going to be doing.
That's right.
That's what we ought to be focusing on. So we need to unify, because you are absolutely correct. Or if you ask, and if you sit down with these candidates individually, AFC and the I've got to be careful I don't say PNC. And the PNCR, if you sit down with these folks who are competing for these positions, and you really ask them some specific questions of the policy, you would hardly find any difference, Dr. Hines. You would hardly find any difference.
Yeah.
So that's where that's the one thing that should unite us, rather than, and it's not about not for them to get power. It's about what's best for this country. And that is why we have got to play our role, Dr. Hines, like what your program and the rest of the folks' program is to bring the information to the people, to let them understand when they're making their decision. And that I'm always fearful that the news, that these type of things, when it happens, which is what's been happening in the past, some very, very serious issues happen. And you can't even remember. Look at Dharam Lal. This party now is the face of Dharam Lal and Mayor and whoever else is connected to her. That's the face. Is that what these people want? Do they want a party? Dharam Lal in this party, Dr. Hines, Darrenland is the sixth most influential person in the government, in the party that governs this country. The sixth most influential person. This man is much more influential than the past President Ramutar. Ramutar is number 26. This man is number 6. That is the image of this party. That's who they are. That's the character of this party. And now we've got another issue here with this lady, and we all know that she is not the only person who is involved here, like you rightly said. So that's what we've got to impart, those type of information to the people. And I trust their judgment, Dr. Hines. I trust their judgment that they're going to make the right decision, because I cannot see how anybody would go along with what is happening here in the best interest of themselves and their families and the country.
One of my comrades in the WPA today asked whether this is not a reflection of the Americanization of our country. And I know that we are anti-imperialist people. We are strongly against people meddling in our affairs. And I want to say that we continue to believe in that principle. But the Americans are involved in Guyana not because we want them to be involved. The circumstances of our situation makes us part of that U.S. axis and U.S. involvement. Absolutely. We have to be realistic about it. You know, I am still anti-imperialist, but I'm saying there's nothing I can do to stop the Americans from being involved in our politics. It's the logic of global politics that have gotten us here. And I would be against Americans running our country overtly and so forth. But I recognize, look, the Americans played a big role in the installation of this present government. And they did so with their eyes wide open. And they have to play a big role in undermining this government that they have put in office. So I want to make a distinction here between the anti-imperialists who are listening here. I want to make a distinction between anti-imperialism and nationalism on the one hand, but on the responsibility of the U.S. government to help us to dismantle what they build up. Because this government they have to build up. That is an open secret. All right? And the logic has taken us here. And I'm not saying the Americans must move this government for us. No, I think this government got to be moved by we. And like I said, it's only one way to move government now. It's by elections. And we got to embrace it. Elections are the only way to move government. It means, therefore, there's a lot riding on these elections. And the opposition parties have to make it easier for us to win elections in this country. And I'm not seeing that coming from them. I'm glad when I see people jump up behind Amanza on nomination day. I'm glad when I see people jump up behind Arbery. I want Arbery and Amanza to get those people to come jump up on the street against corruption, against brutalization, against bad governance, and for the teachers, for wages and salary. I want, when this done, all you come and tell me why we can't have street protests, because you all show us that you all can mobilize people and bring them on the road. The genie is out of the bottle now, Manza and Arbery. I didn't see them jumping up behind Rice-Dale. Maybe he didn't go that route. But you all cannot argue now and say that street protests can be organized. The PPP didn't infiltrate Amanza March. They didn't infiltrate Arbery March on nomination day. So don't tell us what this infiltration nonsense. Finish your Congress and let's get the business of laying the field for the removal of this government via the means available to us.
Now let me add something there to the question that your colleague may have asked you about whether this is happening because of the influence of our big brother to the north. I can tell you the one thing, because I grew up in the U.S. government, and I know the one thing that the U.S. government in all of the satellites and all of the countries that it partners with, of course, it wants to be in control. But the one thing this country is always afraid of is for these type of countries, it's the unstableness of any country. They want that country to remain stable, and the one thing that they monitor is any type of instability. And they've got a lot invested in Guyana right now as a big world producer. They're paying attention. They do not want this to get out of control. And what they're seeing here, that we cannot maintain stability or sustain that stability the way that we're going. Because, and here's where it's also linked to the rule of law. In all of the training and everything else, and the mantra, and the foundation of how this government, the U.S. government operates is, like I said before, they look at every country and they look at what criteria make a country tick or be in their corner, or the country that they should be in. Number one, and I've mentioned this before, it's education. And number two, you know what's number two? Follow the rule of law. And anytime they see that things are getting out of control when it comes to the rule of law, they're going to put a lid on that. And that is why I have no doubt in my mind and in confidence that, because we've had experiences where they've allowed countries to get out of control, and then they lost those countries. And they're not going to allow it to happen to Guyana. One of those was right next door to our neighbor Venezuela. And so I believe that they're not going to continue to make those. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's a wild card as to if Trump gets reelected. That's a different. That's out of the norm. So it's tough to even predict or model what's going to happen there. But I'm telling you, under the normal way that the U.S. government operates, they're not going to allow Guyana to do whatever it wants. And this is the time you've got to rein it in, because if it gets out of control and it gets almost impossible or difficult, they don't want to get to that point in time. And that's why I believe they're gonna clamp down on it, and that's exactly what they're doing.
That's right. And we have to try to influence the Americans to do the right thing. We can't stop the Americans. I mean, God, I wish we could. I wish we could have run things on our own, but we can't run things on our own. We are too divided a nation. We are too divided politically. We can't do it on our own. We have to recognize that. I'm not saying give away the country to the Americans. They're going to take. Well, what I'm saying, the Americans are playing a role they will have to play, and we have to influence the role they play.
Absolutely.
And that is what I'm saying. If the Americans are saying we have no confidence in the institutions in Guyana to prevent corruption, to prevent such things as gold smuggling, we have no confidence in the government, because a government official, we have fingered a government official in aiding and abetting international crime. The Americans have said they don't have confidence in this government. It is time that Aubrey Norton, Amanza Walton, Roysdale Ford, my brother in the AFC, Kemraj, and others over there, it is time that you all use the little. Because what you all have in Parliament is not anything big, because you are not the majority. But use your presence there to dramatize what this government is doing. Vote of no confidence is the way to go. And as I said, my brother, I'm calling Aubrey tonight. I don't know if Kemraj will sleep late. So I'm going to call him in the morning.
Now he's up. I'm sure he's good.
And I'm going to tell them peace of my mind, because we cannot allow this to be a one-day news, a two-day news, and then we forget about it. No, we've got to dramatize this. Dr. Vincent Adams is with me tonight on a Friday night, and we are looking at what has occurred in our country. I can't believe it. Jadio had to call for the AC for turn up because
Yes,
he
just
suddenly
take a
get
look at
cold
it.
sweat.
Take a look at it. He got, but here's the other thing. Yes, but take a look at that. I couldn't believe it when I thought, as soon as the man started sweating. I've never seen this before. When when he started talking about this particular topic, the man started sweating and telling the guy to
Yes,
to make it
he
cool.
suddenly get cold sweat. He get cold sweat.
You get cold sweat, but Dr. Hines, here's I raised the question earlier. Of course, we're calling for no confidence vote. The no confidence vote against the opposition, there wasn't anything of substance.
That's right.
Now you've got many things of substance here. The mismanagement of the Linden flood, the electricity of all things. We've never had that before. And so we've got things of substance and major issues that are identifiable and are measurable for us to go after. There wasn't any. Maybe you can remember if there was anything that they went with in the no confidence vote.
There was nothing. It's bad-mindedness.
There wasn't anything.
Just bad-mindedness.
Exactly.
One other thing that this government is doing, Dr. Adams, is the way in which they've made up their minds to beat the teachers out of existence. They're not talking about compromise with the teachers. They're talking about changing up the education system minus the teachers. That is what these...
And union busting, Dr. Hines, is union busting.
Union busting.
This may start with the teacher, but this is union busting, Dr. Hines. Sherry Jagon got to be rolling in his grave. This is union busting. And here's the other thing, Dr. Hines, in relative to this teachers thing. Again, it goes back to their main objective, to fill their friends and families' pockets. Let's look at this here. First of all, we ain't got too many private schools to absorb all of these kids. That's right. So guess what?
That's right.
They're going to give their friends and families land, the prime land, to build the private schools.
Private schools.
They're going to fund. And guess who's going to own? Who's going to own these private schools that they're going to be funneling money into? Tell me.
Yep.
It's all part of this grand scheme.
I want to talk to you all black people. Since I hear $700,000, you must don't start liquor. You teacher job, you say black man does licorice. And I heard starts a thing. I'm warning you all. I love black people. And I will defend you all when you all are under attack. But if some of you all continue this nonsense of getting into this opportunism, well, we can take their money and we can this and that. At some point, we're going to have an internal conversation in the black community because we got to set you all straight. Part of the reason some black people are crawling on their bellies and going over to the PPP is because we allow them in the black community to go and do it without being sanctioned. And we have to develop our own sanctions in the black community against black people who are working against the collective interest. And I am prepared to be a leader in that. You all getting away with murder because you all are, there's no sanctions. People will might throw a little cusp on you here and there and call you all house slaves. But we gotta go beyond that. And we gotta make you all uncomfortable. You all cannot be comfortable doing what you all are doing because after a time, that will become the norm. We have got to develop our own sanctions against people who are undermining the collective, who are undermining. And I ain't talking here about some mistreating. There are sanctions that we can do in our own community. In my time, when we were fighting the PNC and thing, PNC leaders used to come, knock at my door, David, please tell them pick me left, leave me alone. When they walking on the road, the little children never used to let them walk up the road. They come, David. There are things that we can do in our community to make oppressors uncomfortable. We ain't gonna beat up nobody. We ain't gonna kill nobody. We ain't gonna do that. But we are too soft sometimes on these people who are betraying the community. We got up we game now. Because if we don't, then people are going to succumb to the human temptation of being licorice. Because are you heard of $700,000? Are you done? Start a lick at your tongue. Licorishness sometimes step in. We got to curb our natural instinct sometimes to be licorice. My brother. You all know I love you all, eh? But each of you all on a gotta be a watchman. Trinidadian call it Mako. Right? Each of you all here got to be a Mako. Each of you all here got to be a watchman and to hold back them licorice one. And they can be held back. You just got to talk with them. You just got to talk with them. Don't just cuss them and call them slave. Talk with them. And that is why I am saying to my brother Aubrey, because one, people don't say me, I support Aubrey and I'm partial to Aubrey. I'm not partial to Aubrey. Aubrey come from Christianburg. Vincent come from Christianburg. I come from Boxing. And we know that when we come from those places, what it is we come with and what is it that we're up against in a country that was once a colony. And your place in the society is determined by where you come from, how you talk, how you dress, where you drink, and so on. And when you all see, I stand with Aubrey Norton, I am standing with myself. I'm standing with the Vincent Adams of this world, because we still live in a Guyana where when you're black like we and you're poor like we, you got a whole set of bulldozer who want to bulldoze we just because we come from Christianburg or we come from Golden Grove or Denhamstel or whatever the case may be. So I am defending Aubrey in that regard. When he make a political mistake, I ain't defending him. He got to defend himself. He got to defend himself when it comes to what I am defending is Aubrey's right to lead a political party, a major political party in Guyana, and not be subjected to the kind of chopping up of the head that I see every day happening. If people say Aubrey is wrong with what he did in relation to NAR, we can work that out. We can argue on the downside and the opposition of that. But when you all start talking about the leadership style, I know where you all going. When you all start talking about your leadership style, I know there's that whistle for what. All right? What you all really getting at is, I hear a man say he looked like Idi Amin and know what you see? And that is what I defend. Not Aubrey excesses, if there are any. That is, he got defend himself with that. But when you all begin to call him a 5'4" Idi Amin, I know where you are going with that. And I will defend the brother. I will defend the brother against those kinds of attack. Yes, darling, Victory Valley, formerly Valley of Tears. My auntie used to live there, and she used to carry me that thing and never see water cold, so the other creek. Lad, it's the coldest water. You have to wake up and go down to the creek.
That time, we had running water growing up like a little boy. Is them little spring, them little creek. They're coming from them springs. I used to have to get up early in the morning to go, and we go and bathe at them cold water that she talking about. You see, it take you about 5 minutes to throw the first bowl of water.
What? Valley of Tears, you come down a hill and you have that thing there. Oh, Jesus, we never see water.
Valley of Tears good.
I live in winter, but I never see water cold like the water. Oh, Lord God.
Yeah. But Dr. Hank, just go back to even add to this foolishness that this man is talking about now with this e-education or e-training. Well, first of all, you can't even get internet in most of the country. How the heck are these children what are you going to do to build that? How long do you think it's going to take to build an infrastructure going all the way region 1? I have been on some conferences with people who've got to leave region 1 and 2 to come all the way to Georgetown, region 7, to be in the location in Georgetown to get the internet, to even have Zoom meetings. And he's talking about, but here again, who do you think is going to supply those computers and everything else? Even if you do that, it's all a grand scheme. And then on top of that, I'm not a sociologist, but could you imagine our children? You and I grew up, you go in Buxton and Christianborg. Could you imagine these children not even getting an opportunity to go to school and socialize with other kids? They're sitting at home every day and learning on the computer. They're not going out and going to school with hundreds of kids and socializing. That's what this man is recommending for this country.
Yes, and it is dangerous. You all see, drinking this is coconut water. When I come to Guyana, I just load up on coconut water.
I do.
In August, the big bottle, them was $1,200. When I come back last month, I got to my coconut man. He said, Dr. Hines, let me tell you in front, it's $2,000 for the big bottle. All right? I said, well, you gotta live. I can afford it. He said, Dr. Hines, you're talking the truth. He says, some of my regular customers, they can't buy now. So I got to now reduce my everyday selling, and I got to go now weekend, sell on the weekend, and 2 times during the week, because I lost half of my clientele because they simply cannot afford to buy coconut water, a big bottle of coconut water for $10 US.
Yeah.
Just think about it. No, I can afford it because I come with my little American money till you run out, right? And so on. And the point here is that me coconut man, he revenue drop because he volume of sales.
Yes.
All right. So it's not he is the problem. All right. It's that our people do not have the wages, the money to be able to afford coconut water. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
That you can't afford coconut water in Guyana?
Yeah.
This government, we have to move a vote of confidence. No confidence in them. No confidence in this government. My brother, you're close.
But talking about coconut water and food, and you can multiply that by tens of thousands of people, by tens of thousands of vendors and tens of thousands of people can't afford. But this is why I'm saying that there is no planning whatsoever in this government. It's all about putting money in their friends' pockets, because who is competing in terms of the prices. It's the oil folks, those vendors that are supplying the ships. Exxon and them, they're paying all kinds of money for coconut water and food for them to supply the ships. So when those farmers and everybody bring out their products, if they get a higher price selling to the ships, then we've got to pay the same price in the market. So that's why a slice of pumpkin is costing $1,000, whatever it is. But the government, so instead of the government come up with a way of even subsidizing it, Jagyo gets and he cusses out several times. The man said that the only thing that you see when people like you and I talk about that, he says that the only thing that the opposition wants to do is take the money and feed the people.
Yes.
That's what he says.
Yes,
that's all we want, is to take the money and feed the people. When he wants to take the money and put in his friends and family's pockets, I would take feeding the people anytime before putting in doing what he's doing.
Yes, Nigel is telling us here that $500 for coconut. So when you buy one coconut, is $500.
Yes.
So you can't afford the big bottle for $2,000. you got to go now and buy one coconut. You still
Yeah.
getting joke because you're paying $500 for
Yeah.
it. One of the things I was a little bit happy is when I've been on the wharf last week to buy fish. Banga now come down to 160, 180. When I left here the other day, it is over 300 going to 400. So Banga come down, got the fish. I couldn't afford, and I get a couple dollars because and thing, but I couldn't afford snapper. Snapper now come down. Snapper and trout going for the same price. And I asked them people.
What's the price? Why? What's the price?
You can get two good size for 5,000. Two big size snapper you can get for 5,000. I got two good size for 5, and it's the same price now as trout. I had to resort to trout because snapper was so thin, and I asked them what happened, and it's the market. After a time, people could not afford to buy fish.
Yes.
So the market, the price had to come down. Market. And that's what I'm saying. This thing is about the market, and the government got to put more money in people's hands. Yeah. Because when you get these white people come in this country, they run up the real estate.
That's right.
They run up the prices in the market. Because if they're coming and paying $1,000 for a piece of pumpkin, of course that's where the market going.
Absolutely.
You see?
Yeah. And even the rent, because what's happening now, because these foreign companies, they're bringing in all of their staff. So, and they normally work like 14 on board the ship and 14 off in town. So now the rental properties, I see some apartments that are being rented, Dr. Hines, in when you go a little bit past Campbellville, for like $5,000 a month. The ordinary person cannot find a reasonable house to rent in Georgetown. It's not, so that's the, and then you cannot find a regular, maybe a 1 or 2 bedroom house for less than $500 US a month. And that's what here's the, do you know, and I run the numbers again, 8,000 to 9,000 teachers out of the total 14,000 teachers, which is about close to 65% of the teachers. Do you know what they're making? $100,000 per month. $100,000 per month, which is the same $500 that you got to pay. This is 8,000 to 9,000 teachers out of the 14,000 teachers. 62% are making about $100,000 per month. And this government is refusing to even give them anything more than a slave wage that they're currently earning.
Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight. And Vincent, thank you as usual for coming on a Friday night and for us
Anytime.
to keep the fire burning. Desmond might say slow fire. Those people like me and you know that when the coil hard, you got by them with slow fire. Sometimes they will be to put a little nail, put a nail in there whenever buy them and so on, And this coil where we get here for leader and government, all right? We got that slow fire and we got put nail inside for help to soften them. Sisters and brothers, are we depend them? But I will not turn back. We've come too far. Good evening to my countrywoman, Koke. Hope you're taking care of them grand picnic. Good day, girl, because after all, you, mom and daddy and grandmother, they take care of you good, so take care of them grandchildren good. Koke is my classmate and thing. When them people that go to school, me never know they're interested in politics. When Koke call me a man and take off with politics, me said, Jesus Christ. In my mind, and Koke talking about them elected official in New Jersey and so on. I said, put it on dog. And that is what happens. I think people believe that human beings are robots. And that is why I have tremendous confidence in Guyanese people. Because I think there is a way in which they become politicized in their quiet ways. And you don't know it until something happens and they open their mouth and you said, Jesus Christ, where this come from? Well, it's always been there. It's always,
Yeah.
and what these programs are doing, they're bringing out that kind of latent inquisitiveness and militancy in our people. And I think our leaders don't know how to deal with it. I think our leaders don't, beyond asking people for their vote, they don't know what to do with this tremendous groundswell that is happening in the community. In me village, Buxton, they get plainclothes people, they will go, they will sit down and listen to them little by, they will go and do it, and then little by know them, you know, because when you not come from the village or you're a stranger, people know you. People know you. So them watch them. They fear. They fear. So the government itself knows what it is doing, and it is fearing its own people. It's fearing its own people. Our leaders.
What you know what we need to do, Dr. Hines? We need to have our leaders need to transform the thinking of people into letting them understand that they're not voting for the leaders, they're voting for themselves. Because a lot of people, well, okay, come, vote for me. It's not about voting. We've got to convince the people that politics governs everything that you do. Politics determines how much food you eat, or if you get any food, what's your wages, how much water you get for drink, if you get any water. It depends what house you live in. Everything, every single thing what school you go to, it's about politics. So when you vote, you're not voting for a politician, and that's how we need to approach people, to let them understand here. Because you still hear a lot of people, I don't want that done for do with politics. Politics determines every single phase of your life. So when you vote for a politician, it's not, you're not voting because he or she looks nice, and it's what are they gonna do to make your life and your family's life better. That's where we are we need to convert that thinking into people.
Yes, we do. And we end here tonight. My sister Ingrid is saying, Dr. Hines, the opposition leaders are politically lazy. It is a very accurate statement. It's a very accurate statement. And we got to unlazy them. We got to unlazy them. That is our task, our historical task. My brother, thanks very much. Of course, I'm going to see you on Sunday. Because we got to savor the victory last night.
Absolutely.
And what I said, Vincent, it wasn't the perfect performance, but you know what I like about last night? FIGHT.
Oh yeah, it was, but I was very disappointed in the performance, especially at the top of the order. Because let me tell you something, we got away by the skin of our teeth there,
Yeah, I know.
So for the last pair, you don't plan your team based. You don't plan how you're gonna approach a game based on your last pair in the wicket.
Yes.
Bringing you through. That's not how it. So we got away by the skin of our teeth. We won the game, but it's not. We can't move forward because when we played the big team, so Australia's gonna. We would have lost in Australia.
No! You can't be 30-something for 5 against Australia inside the boundary and come back and win. You're quite right. But we're gonna be talking more about that on Sunday night. Those of you all, please remember on Sunday night, West Indies Cricket 101. We're gonna bring the same kind of analysis there because, as you all know, cricket, like politics, goes beyond the boundary, And we people, post-colonial people, post-slavery people, we're always pushing the boundaries. We've got to. Thank you all very much for staying with us another Friday night. And I'm going to see you all on Monday. Those of you who are only politics, but those of you who are politics and cricket politics, Sunday night, 6 o'clock, the place to be. Politics 101. Thank you very much, Vincent.
Take care, Dr. Einstein.
And of course, I'm going and call Aubrey North now, and I'm going to call Kim Raj, because they've got to move a vote of no confidence against this government. Too much. This is too much.